Hey everyone, welcome to Home Cooking with Foodland. Glad to see everyone. I hope you guys all had a great time with your French toast and everyone's like an expert at making omelets now. Um, Thinking about today's class, we thought it'd be really fun to kind of like get into poke. I get lots of questions about poke. Foodland, we're always home for poke. We've got a great reputation for it. We've been doing it from the 70s and we keep innovating. And, I thought I would share with you some of you know, the ways we make poke and even just like culturally how we do poke for those of you that may not be from here, and how we approach that. And I'll show you some of the flavors that we make. Keep in mind, I will be doing adaptations because we have secret recipes. But it'll be a fun class. And this actually, this class was inspired. I don't know. Well, for those of you that have been hanging out with us for, wow, it's almost been a year now, right? We did a class and we're like, what do you guys want to see? And everyone shot out their ideas. Like I got like kombu maki and chasiu bao and char siu and all kinds of ideas. But one of the themes that I kept hearing in the list was poke. And so I said, you know what? Let's do it. I think we'll have fun with it. I'm going to try to show you folks how to make 4 poke today. We will base this on Ahi Poke, and that's kind of like I think the foundation of poke. And if you look at the recipe that we sent out, I didn't give amounts because really I think poke is about feel, and so I'm hope to show you the feel and the sense of poke, and you can watch the video if you want to replay it or watch it with me now, and then do your own thing. But I'm looking forward to the class. I think it'll be a lot of fun. And housekeeping rules, right? If you have questions, use the chat feature, and we have some really great people that'll ask me questions. The Q&A feature, sorry, that I'm getting rusty on this. Use the Q&A feature, and we'll ask the questions, and I'll get you guys answers, and we'll have this great dialogue. So why don't we get right into this? So for starters, I have ahi here. I have cubed some of it, and the size that I like is somewhere between 3/4 of an inch to an inch. I have a piece that I did not dice so you can see. And when you're gonna make poke, I'm using fresh ahi. Now our stores sell both fresh and previously frozen. Both are really great quality, both very delicious. Now in this case here, the dice that I'm going for, and one of the reasons I like to make poke myself, is I like control. It's like, for those of you that are familiar, that know Cheryl, right? She asked me one day, because I did a video once on making ice cream. She's like, why do you want to make ice cream? You can just buy it. It's control, right? And so for me, it's about doing what I want and really having control of what I'm doing. And so in this case, the dice here we're seeing is like 3/4 of an inch to an inch, like I said. And sometimes, you go to places, the ahi cubes might be really big, and it's like, it's too big. And so again, I have control of what's happening here. So I have a block here, and you can also get the nice chunks from our store. You take the chunk and then you kind of plank them, we call them, and you're creating nice little blocks like this. So then I'll take this block, cut it down in half, and then I'm going to cut this in thirds, because I'm shooting for that 3/4 inch size, right? And then I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, I'm trying to eyeball what my cubes are going to look like. And there are my 3/4 inch cubes. I feel like 3/4 inch is a great size because it's just the right size to get, a nice bite. And it also is the right size for your sauces, garnishes, and flavoring. It's all about ratio, right? And it's about surface tension and surface area. I want the right amount of sauce and garnish coating the piece of ahi. If it's too big, not enough coats the piece of ahi. If it's too small, too much sauce, and then it's like out of balance. Okay, I'll put this in the sink here. So now we have our ahi cubes here, and then we're gonna do some other prep. I have alai salt here. This is garlic that I already chopped. Right here I have what is known as ogo in Japanese, or limu in Hawaiian. This is fresh seaweed, and it's really interesting stuff. If you're not familiar, it gives great crunch. It gives great brininess. It tastes like clean ocean, and it really adds seasoning and texture. to your poke. And this is one of the things that the ancient Hawaiians used when they made poke. And it's if you don't have this, the one thing that I was going to say is if you don't have this, you can get ocean salad. You know, the green strips that you can get at like a lot of Asian markets. If you don't have access to this, you can use that. Okay. I also have Masago, which is a smelt roll. You can also use Tobiko, which is flying fish roll. Both of them are very delicious. This is Inamona we have here. And this Inamona is a very key ingredient in making traditional Hawaiian poke. This is chopped up toasted candle nuts or kukui nuts. It's a very rich oil. It's called a candle nut because in Hawaii, they would take these and they would skewer them. And there's so much oil in them that they would use them for candles. They would light the kukui nut, and that's how they would light up their hale or their house at night. What we use them here for is we toast them, we chop them up. It gives a really nice nutty flavor. And when you think about that nuttiness, and also if you can't get kukui nuts, that's why we use a lot of sesame oil. To toasted sesame oil gives a very similar flavor profile to the kukui nuts. And then we have toasted sesame seeds with it, which enhance that. We got some shoyu. This is a Maui onion. I'll just preface what we're talking. Maui onion. I'm using a Maui onion because it's a sub acid. It's not as sulfuric. It's not as sulfuric, and it's sweeter. If you don't have Maui onions, you can use a Vidalia, Texas sweet. Any of those sweet onions is going to really help make the poke delicious. So real quick, I'll just kind of get this thing going here. Cut the top off, trim the ends. I'll cut it in half. I don't need the whole thing, so I'll put this on the side.
While you're doing that, I'm going to ask you a few questions.
Great.
Inamona, can you freeze it for future use?
You can. I have done it before. I mean, it stabilizes it. I also have kept it in the refrigerator too. The thing you're trying to prevent from happening is the oils from going rancid. And so the refrigerator, the freezer kind of stabilizes it. It eventually will go rancid. And the way you want to do this is just kind of taste it before you use it. If it tastes, it'll taste off. If it tastes rich and toasty and nutty and clean, then you're fine. But yeah, refrigerating or freezing makes a big difference. Here's this is the core here. I'm gonna take that out. And then I'm gonna go and slice this. I'm gonna go thin.
Let's talk about ahi. Are there different grades of ahi, like sushi grade? And what kind of ahi are you using for this?
So good question. There are many grades of ahi. In Hawaii, we grade them, and some of it depends on the house the fish distributor you're buying from. They grade them a lot of the times. It's number 1, number 2. Some go to number 3, and they call number 3 poke grade. And number 1, really is like really bright red, really clear, lots of clarity, like ruby red. Number 2 is also the same. It just starts to be a little bit less of that bright ruby red. Number 3 again starts to like get a little bit a little cloudy, still very delicious raw. And then you start moving into like fry grade, which is it's still very good eating, but it's not as ruby red and bright red as the other grades, and it's really good for cooking. And so what I would say what I'm using here is probably somewhere between 2 and 3, and this was a chunk, right, or a chunk. And so typically a chunk is a really good quality piece that you're going to slice, and you could make, depending on the parts of it, you could make some sashimi with it or make some ahi, and then you take a part of it and you might even want to cook that. When you go into our stores, you might see little blocks, the saku blocks, which is made for sashimi. That's typically like a number 2 grade, and we sell a lot of that. And the price points are going to be in the $20 to $26 a pound on the saku block, and that's the prime stuff. So when I'm making poke, the thing that I'm thinking about is what I'm going to make with it. And so if I'm going to make like spicy ahi, which is lots of mayonnaise, it's going to coat the whole thing, I'm looking for fresh, but I might not be so concerned about how bright ruby red it is, because at that point I'm going to cover with a bunch of sauce. If I want to do something that's very minimally processed, or not processed, but has a minimal amount of ingredients, I'm looking for a better grade because I want people to see that bright red. And so I think you can decide, you know, what you're looking for. I find great value in looking for these block pieces because what I'll do is I'll buy the block, I'll take the really nice stuff, I'll slice that up, eat that for sashimi. Maybe the next day I'll take the pieces that they're really nice, but not as bright as the sashimi grade stuff, and I'll dice it up for poke. And then the pieces that might be closest to the bloodline, I'll trim those, I'll saute them or grill them. And so I've created 3 meals, and I've used the piece of that block, all the different grades of those in that one block, in a way that makes sense and gets the best value out of the piece of fish that you have. Okay, so we've got this. I'll do this later. I'll do some ginger. So ginger, nice piece of ginger here. When I'm looking for ginger, I pick pieces like this. This is a small piece. I don't want a piece that's really fat, because the fatter it is, the more mature it is, and the more woody it tends to be. So I like these smaller pieces because they're going to be less grainy and they're going to be easier to eat, especially because we're going to eat it raw. Now you can peel it. People use peelers. One of the things I like to do that I've shown before is I use a spoon. I just scrape the skin, because that way I'm not wasting a bunch of product that gets peeled off. And if I happen to be making like soup or oxtail soup or something, what I'll do is I'll keep the skin and I can throw that in when I'm making the soup, and that will give good flavor, okay? So I have peeled this real quick. Maybe let's get a little more off here. Cheryl, you asked me one question. Yeah.
How do you store the ginger?
You know, I just put it in the refrigerator. And once I cut a piece off, I'll wrap that side with saran wrap or plastic wrap to keep. What I'm trying to do is keep it from drying out. I'm trying to keep bacteria from getting on it, and I'll keep it in the refrigerator. Now, if for some reason it starts to dry out, or it starts to get a little bit of sometimes you get a little bit of mold or whatever, I just cut that piece off, and then I can use the rest. Okay, now here's the grains are going this way. I'm gonna cut this way because I'm trying to go against the grain. You can also use a grater. There's Japanese graters that work really well. But like we've talked about before, right? If you've been with me for a while, I use the same tools all the time. I have a knife, I got some pans, that's it. It's because I'm trying to minimize, you know, the amount of tools that I have. Now, I love to buy tools and kitchen tools. It's all fun, but you know, I don't have infinite amount of space, and I don't want to buy a tool that I'm going to use just once a year. So I don't have the grater, and I'll just use my knife. This thing here, if you're gonna spend anything or you're gonna invest on a knife, a really good knife, and don't buy all the other toys, because this one's gonna pay out for you. Okay, so I'm gonna shingle this real quickly.
Is storing ginger the same way? I mean, would you store garlic the same way that you store ginger?
See, what I do is it depends on the garlic, right? So if you're talking about garlic bulbs, like the stuff that has unpeeled, I'll leave those out. But even those, right? It's a living thing. So if you don't use it a lot of garlic, it starts to sprout and grow on you. You know, one of the things that we do at Foodland, and we've brought in for a long time pre-peeled garlic cloves from a company in the mainland. And recently, what we started to do, which I think is a great product, is we bring in bulk garlic cloves and we pack them in smaller containers and we sell them in the produce department. So you don't have to peel them. That product, what I do is I just keep it in the refrigerator, and I don't have to peel it, keeps it fresh. One of the things I will say though is when you buy that product, and this is the part that you want to think about for all of the cooking you do. And we talked about this with the cheese, even the garlic. When I'm using the garlic, if I want to take garlic cloves out, I don't just grab it with my hand. I'll like let them fall out, or use a spoon to take it out, because your hands have bacteria on them. And if you want the product to last long, one, make sure your refrigerator keeps a consistent temperature of like 38 degrees, between 36 and 38 degrees. The other thing is, if you don't touch the product, you don't contaminate it. And when you touch it, that's what makes it start to get moldy or starts to get fuzzy stuff on it. So keep it in the refrigerator, keep it clean, don't contaminate it.
Can you freeze ginger?
You can, and I've done that before. The thing you have to be mindful of is freezing helps. If you have a lot of ginger, you can freeze it. But when you freeze something, right, it changes the composition of it. When you freeze something, all the water in there crystallizes, and when water crystallizes, it expands and it bursts the cell walls. And so frozen ginger works totally fine. But when you take it out and use it, it starts to get watery and it's not as vibrant. So it works great for soups, it works for saute. You will find that if you're going to use frozen ginger, you got to use more. The thing for me is like ginger is a very inexpensive ingredient, right? I think our store is like $3.99 a pound, something like that. So I'd rather buy small pieces more often and use it fresh than freeze it. That said, if I've had big pieces that I couldn't use, I throw it in the freezer and I use it for like when I make like long rice or a soup where it can extract the flavor that way. So I have some green onions. I grow some in the yards. By the way, I want to sell as much green onions as possible in our stores, but I will tell you a secret, right? You buy the green onions, you chop, you get the root part, you let it dry out, put it in your backyard, you plant it, and this is what happens, they grow, okay? Now it's interesting because it's springtime and they're blooming right now. I got some blossoms here, but you know, you can grow some. I buy them from the store and I grow some, but just FYI. Okay, we're gonna do some green onions, slice it up. Quickly slice these real quick. I go thin. And the reason I go thin is because I'm trying to get a really good disbursement of flavor. If they're big chunks, right, you're gonna get a hunk of green onion and you're like, ooh, too much. So go thin.
Question about Ahi Poke. How long does it last in the fridge?
That's a personal choice. I mean, and it depends. It depends on the quality of your ahi, right? And it depends on how long it's sitting out. So I've made poke before that I've eaten over the course of a couple of days, is because I get really good quality. I make it quickly. I don't touch it with my hands. I put it in the refrigerator. It stays really cold. I take a little bit at a time. Now, if you're gonna have a party and you make a big bowl of poke and you sit it out for 2 hours and it's like outdoors and you're watching the football game, whatever, that's not gonna last. So it depends. But I think if you're keeping it refrigerated, you're keeping it cold, and you're also mindful of the things you put in there. Shoyu, lemon juice, any of those kinds of things. Ponzu sauce, which has citric acid in there, will discolor the ahi. It will taste fine, but it will discolor over time. It'll oxidize. So those are the things I think you got to just be mindful of when you're, relative to the question of how long it can last. The thing that I would say though, you're better off with poke. It's like buy it, eat it, go to the store, buy some more, eat it. Okay.
Have you ever tried making poke with turmeric root instead of ginger root?
If you're talking about turmeric, if your turmeric is the same turmeric I'm thinking of, for me, turmeric, I don't think it has the same flavor that ginger has, the ginger quality, and it also has that yellowing, right? I think you can try. I mean, if you've done it and that's what you like, that's great. I don't think it gives, to me, turmeric is more of a soil or terroir quality than the ginger quality that I'm looking for. It's almost like saffron, where it has an earthiness to it, and it might be a good enhancement if you don't have like Hawaiian salt. But I would stick to ginger for making something like that. All right, so let's start making our first variety. So I thought, what the heck? I'm gonna start with one of our most popular varieties in the store, spicy ahi, because I get asked a lot of questions about what is the recipe for spicy ahi. So I'm gonna show you a version of spicy ahi that you can do at home, which will be delicious, but it may not be the exact same thing that we make in stores. So we put some ahi in here. I'm gonna put some sriracha for the spicy part. And the interesting thing about sriracha I've learned is that, and I didn't think about it, I like a lot of this stuff, but it's hot, but it's also a little bit sweet. And so it's almost like spicy ketchup. Sriracha is in there, sesame oil. This is a key ingredient, really makes a big difference. We're gonna add some green onions to this. I totally went the wrong way. I should have started with something without mayonnaise because I gotta wash this bowl now. We're gonna add some of the Masago. Gives it crunch, saltiness, great texture. I'm gonna put some alai. For those of you not are familiar with this is Hawaiian red salt, and what makes it red is clay soil. And so, like we're talking about the turmeric, this gives it a nice earthy quality, and it gives a nice character and mineral flavor. So we'll put that in here. The other thing about it is it's gonna give it a nice texture because you're gonna crunch a little pieces of salt, and they'll burst in your kind of burst and give bursts of flavor when you eat it. And of course, our Best Foods mayonnaise, also known as Hellman's, east of the Rockies. Okay, we'll put some of that in here. And then we're gonna go ahead and mix it. Now our stores, interesting thing about our stores, we have core recipes, but we allow our stores at community level to make adjustments based on the neighborhood preference. So there may be a little bit of nuanced differences between the stores you go to, and it's because a particular store may have a customer base that wants it spicier or more masago-y, and I think that's one of the cool things that we allow our stores to do.
Question: You used alaya salt. Can you use a different salt?
Yep. If you don't have that, use rock salt or kosher salt. Use whatever salt you have access to is fine. Just this one's nice because it gives you the crunch, and it gives you a little bit of that sort of terroir or soil quality to it.
And how would you describe the size of these cubes? Are they 1-inch cubes?
3/4 of an inch.
3/4 of an inch cubes.
Yep.
And did you cut it against the grain?
Well, the ahi, if you're getting good quality ahi, it's not really like stringy. So, you take the block, you can cube it out, and you just block it and cube it, and it should be fine. All right. So here we have our spicy ahi. I'll put that one down. And like I said, I went total like poor planning. I'm gonna rinse this out real quick, right?
What other fish would you recommend besides ahi for this dish?
For spicy or just for poke?
Both.
For spicy, I think you want a nice rich fish, a nice meaty fish. We do a lot of fresh salmon that works really, really great. But when you're talking about poke in general, I think you're looking for fresh. And the ancient Hawaiians, when they were doing poke, it wasn't like this, right? Like this Asian culture has really infiltrated what poke is. And like the next poke that I show you, which is where is a Hawaiian style poke. It was not as involved as the pokes that you see, and the Hawaiians were using really what they had available to them. And ancient Hawaiian cuisine is more of a sustenance cuisine, and so I think we've taken something that was a sustenance cuisine and evolved it and tweaked it, and it's this really cool thing. And it was delicious then, but it was much simpler, and I'll show you what that looked like. But the key thing was the freshness of the fish. So they would take very, very fresh fish and eat it raw and lightly enhance it. So what I'll show you, and ahi over time is one of those things that became popular, but you used to see a lot in fish markets would be lots of varieties. Like you might see o'io, which is like a bonefish, or ava, or akule, which are all like the small bonito, aku, which is bonito. So like lots of different varieties, very fresh, minimally enhanced, and that became what poke was. So we're gonna do one here now that's Hawaiian style. And so we have our ahi here. And so we're gonna add the Inamona, which is gonna give it really nice nutty character. I'm pretty generous with this because that really gives it that flavor, that meatiness you're looking for. We're gonna season it with this alai, which is gonna give you that salt and that soil terroir quality. I'm gonna add some of this Maui onion, this sweet onion. Put some of that in here. I'm also gonna add some of the limu or ogo. think about what we're seeing here now. We're seeing meatiness, toasted. This is that ocean quality. We're enhancing the fish with this briny ocean flavor. And now what I am going to add to this is a little bit of sesame oil. This is definitely not Hawaiian, but what I want to add to this is mouthfeel and texture. So I could add some vegetable oil if I wanted to, but I'm going to add a little bit of the sesame oil because it's going to enhance the Inamona that's in here. So this is I'm going to ask to add some green onions because I want some color. And this is something I'm sure for those of you that, you know, are here locally, or when you see what poke, you know, when you used to go to the farmers market or Chinatown, or you go to like the old Ala Moana farmers market, this is what poke kind of like looked and felt like. Okay. I think looks really, this is a nice one here. Sometimes I surprise myself.
Did you marinate the ahi with the shoyu and the sesame oil prior to mixing in the other ingredients, or you just?
Nope, this is straight. The ahi is just pure right now. I've not done anything to it. And you know, like we like to do here, right? I'm all about garnishing. So I'll add a little bit of this here. Some green onions. And so here's poke, poke number 2. A quick rinse here.
A lot of questions about Inamona.
Yes.
We sell Inamona.
We do sell Inamona. We don't like, it's not in a case, but if you want Inamona, you can go to the seafood guys and say, hey, you know, you have to like know the secret knock, but they will sell it to you. $500 a pound, but you can get some. Just kidding. It's not $500 a pound, but you can get some. And it's not crazy expensive. Okay, so the next one we're gonna do, oh, by the way, you know, contemporary culture, right? There's a lot of ahi is the one I think is most popular, but you know, we do varieties with now imitation crab, we do oyster, we do raw crab, we do I'm trying to think of all the different things. We do tofu, we do beets. I mean, it's an interesting thing that has evolved, and it is in some ways a marinated salad without the acidity. But there are lots of different ways that you can go with this. Octopus or taco, that's another variety we do. Shrimp, you know, there's a lot of different ways you can go with poke. Okay, so this one is one of my favorites. And again, it's very simple. So you gotta have good ingredients to make this one, okay? This one, you know, might not be seen in the stores, but this is one I make at home a lot. I really love this stuff here. So I'm not gonna be very generous for this.
What is this one called?
Masago Ahi. So I got Masago and I got Ahi. And that's all there is in there. No, just kidding. A little bit of sesame oil for that mouthfeel, a little bit of toasty quality. I'm gonna put some of this alai in here. Green onions. And it's, again, this is a very simple one, but what's great about this one, it's all about the ingredients, right? This one stands, you gotta have good quality for this one here.
Betty says the Inamona is $25 a pound at Kaneohe Foodland, but it's really light and you don't need much.
Exactly. Betty. I haven't heard from you in a while. Wasn't sure, like, cause where you been? So that's nice and right there. And again, the thing about poke, right? Like a lot of places you go, they put tons of stuff on there, and it kind of masks the poke, right? That one's very natural. There's not a whole lot going on. It stands on its own, and you can see the ahi quality right there.
So what's your favorite Foodland poke?
People ask me that all the time. You know, one of the ones that I really like that I'm gonna show you a deconstructed version of is the California roll, and I love that one because part of it's like I love the story about it because we had a seafood director and we were doing this event at Pier 38, and we were gonna do it. You know, we're like, oh, what are we gonna do? And that was kind of like right when we started to do poke bowls and it was getting popular, and we were like, and we're the ones, by the way, for the. I'm gonna debunk all the rumors. We created the poke bowl, right? I'm gonna put that to bed right now. Anyway, so we're developing the thing, and we was like, what would be cool to do? And so we came up with the spicy California Ahi Poke, which I think is really, really one of my favorites, right? Because it's got the crab or imitation crab, it's got avocado, cucumber, kaiware sprouts, and the spicy ahi. And I think it's just all the flavors come together. So I will go to the store and buy some of that, but I also like to buy some of a more simple poke, and then I kind of like mix them together. So that's what I do.
I have to correct you and say that we didn't create the poke bowl. Our customers created the poke bowl because they were buying the rice from the deli and then getting the poke and putting it on top.
Okay. I'll let you have that, but I don't know. It's all a question of mythology, I guess, right? Okay, ahi, sesame oil. This is a contemporary one we're gonna do. So this one has garlic, ginger.
Ray says Foodland also makes good kamaboko poke.
That's a good one too. We do tofu poke, which is good too. Did I say that already? Maui onions. This is what you see in restaurants, right? When you go to like the hotels or, you know, sesame seeds. I don't know, Cheryl. I'll take your word for it, but green onions. Lae. I want to put a little bit of shoyu. And I'm also gonna add just a tiny hint. It's not in the recipe that I sent, but I add this at the end.
What shoyu are you using?
I'm using Yamasa shoyu.
Can you tell us approximate measurements?
Which thing?
All the items you put in?
So this was about half a pound of cubes. I would say, 2 tablespoons of Maui onion, a tablespoon of ogo, teaspoon of sesame seeds, a pinch of garlic, like a teaspoon of garlic, a teaspoon of ginger, maybe a teaspoon or 2 teaspoons of shoyu, 2 teaspoons of sesame oil, a tablespoon of green onions. So does this look like what you get? There's a lot of the contemporary restaurants are serving when you go have poke. That's kind of like what this is supposed to be. And then I gotta show you guys. This makes it really like restaurant style, right? So you hold the onion this way.
Sorry, what was the last ingredient you added that you said was your secret ingredient?
Jeez, I don't know. I don't remember. What was it? Oh, sorry. Yeah. Chili flakes. A little bit of heat. You can add chili flakes or togarashi. That would be good. A little bit more salt. Put that over here. So here's 4 pokes, right? And you can see the differences between them all. Okay. Next thing I want to show you, the last thing I want to show you is taking poke. Like this is great for pauhana, right? Buy some poke. You guys hang out. You know, everyone's eating poo-poo style, drinking some beers, having a good time. And then the other thing that's very popular in our culture today is a poke bowl. And again, this goes back to the question of mythology. I think there's also roots to don, which is a Japanese bowl, right? So it's poke don, or you know, that whole culture. But essentially, it's rice in a bowl, and lots of places may do sushi rice. In our stores, we offer white rice, brown rice. You can get salad in our stores, and we're also started this thing where you can get like a poi bowl, so it's poi and poke on top. So we're really having fun with that. For those of you that are on Oahu, you may have visited one of our sister stores, Redfish Poke Bowl by Foodland, which is really a celebration of poke, and we do great poke bowls there. And that concept was inspired by us being having a reputation for doing great poke. So I have some fresh rice here, and you can make sushi rice, but this is just plain rice that I cooked, and I'm gonna put it in a bowl here. And so I just wanted to show you the kind of thing what you can do to have fun with poke. And you know what the heck, where did I put it? Here, I have a little bit of poke left here, so I'm just gonna make another small little tiny batch as a reminder for everyone. Kind of like a spicy ahi poke. Yeah.
Inamona. Can you substitute macadamia nuts for Inamona?
Texture's a little bit different. You can also you can do walnuts, you can do pine nuts, nice toasted nut. Sesame seeds, although not a nut, is a great substitute as well. So some of this inside here. I'm gonna steal some of this a little bit. Well,
some people are asking, what is sushi rice?
Sushi rice is Japanese rice or short grain or medium grain rice that's cooked, and then you put what is called sushi su on that, and basically it's a mixture of rice wine vinegar and sugar that's been cooked and reduced down. There's a way you can do a quick version. You can buy sushi vinegar, and that's what that is, or you can. I've also taken rice wine vinegar and a little bit of median, which is another kind of a sweetened rice wine, and made a quick sushi rice. So when you go to sushi restaurants, when you're eating sushi, it's not just plain rice. They're taking the rice and they're seasoning it and adding flavor to it. So I'm gonna take my rice here. I'm gonna put a little bit of poke on here. And just for fun, since we have it, I'm gonna make a deluxe poke bowl.
What is the most unusual poke you've eaten?
Unusual. That is a good question. I mean, some may argue whether it is or is not a poke, but in Hawaiian culture, there's a dish called ake, which is like a marinated raw liver, which I think is an offshoot of that, which I think is unusual. I don't know. I think there's different versions. Like there's Sam Choi is a local chef that's well known, and he used to have a contest, and you see all kinds of interesting things. For me, like I've seen poke with fruit and stuff like that, which is a little bit unusual. But I think that's kind of like the extent of which I've seen unusual. Okay, so I'm gonna add some cucumber here.
You're gonna say beet poke.
I don't think that's unusual though. And the cool thing about beet poke is it looks like ahi poke because of the color. It tastes delicious too. The sweetness and the sesame with the nuts and the sesame oil, it's just really, 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 it works. So if you've not had beet poke, I think that you should try it.
And I thought you were also going to say lox poke or fa poke.
Who's been hanging out at Redfish? Yeah, that is trippy. Chef Reed, he's a very creative guy, and we did that for a frolic event, which did very, very well. Okay, so here's some avocado. I just did a quick dice on that. Put that on here. And so, like, we talked about deconstructed, right? I'm doing a deconstructed Ahi Poke bowl. Put some, this is imitation crab. If you got real crab, better yet, go for it. So that's like that. Let's add some furikake.
What kind of furikake are you using?
Ume at Furikake, my Kai brand from our stores. Delicious. For those who are not familiar with ume, it's a pickled plum. It's very similar, has a very interesting quality. Like if you're familiar with sumac, it has a similar sumac quality. Kaiware sprouts. And I have some shredded nori that I'm going to put on here too. But see, so you took something, a really fun, really delicious poke, and we've kind of like kicked it up a notch. This is kind of like how you can take it to the next level. And if you want to have a party get together, do something simple like that. Again, all simple ingredients, things that you have at home. But that's kicked up poke bowl. So we've got 4 pokes, right? I started with ahi. We did our spicy ahi here. Mayonnaise, sesame oil, masago, green onions, alae. Then we have our Hawaiian style, the Inamona, Maui onions, ogo, green onions, a little bit of sesame oil, and I think I said alae again. Over here, this is the Masago Ahi, sesame oil, green onions, and the contemporary style, right, which has ginger, garlic, green onions, toasted sesame seeds, sesame oil, Maui onions, and then we brought it all together here with a fun poke bowl. Here, I'm gonna put the flour in here to kind of like top it all off. But again, poke is a good base, and some of the base flavors are great. Then you can just kind of have fun with it and do different garnishes. And the fun part about this is if you want to get together, you can do a whole party themed on this. Bring a bunch of different poke, get a bunch of different ingredients, and you can either make like little tiny bowls and make little like, I guess it's like poke sliders. I mean, not really sliders, but like tiny appetizer poke things, or you can have everyone make their own poke bowl and make it a fun kind of a get together. And there you have it. Are there any last questions about poke that I can try to answer for anyone?
What are kaiware sprouts and what do they taste like?
Kaiware sprouts are radish sprouts. So if you think about, like a red radish, that's what they taste like. They're a little bit milder than some of the, like a red radish might be very peppery. Because they're sprouts, they have the radish essence, but not quite as spicy. Any other last questions?
Yes, if you're using salmon instead of ahi,
Yeah,
do you use all the same ingredients?
you can use salmon and sub in and out. Yeah, salmon, substitute the salmon for ahi and do all of the same things, and it works great.
Can you use any type of salmon, and does it need to be frozen first, or?
Some people will freeze it first. I guess that the question is brought up about food safety, right? And this is raw fish, and so all the menus say like there is a risk of eating. There's technically a risk of eating raw fish, right? The key thing about eating raw fish is know who you're buying from and make sure that people that you're buying from are buying from reputable sources, and that's what we do. Salmon, as an example, same thing. There are people that will freeze the salmon quickly or flash freeze it to try to kill any bacteria, and you can absolutely do that. And so it's just a personal choice at that point. Anything else? All right, so that's our class tonight. Couple things. Wanted just to mention that I'm really excited about talking about this new thing that we're doing at Foodland, and it starts on March 31st. What we're doing, it's called Foodland 5, and what we're doing is myself and the culinary team and people in the community and some of our customers, we're going to start getting everyone's ideas, and we're going to be posting recipes that just take 5 ingredients. And when I say 5, I'm serious. Like literally, the only 3 things that we can add outside of that is salt, pepper, and oil. The recipes all have to be 5 main ingredients, and they're going to be easy to make, quick to make, very delicious. And all those ingredients, when we send the recipe, will also be available at promotional pricing in our stores. So really fun, looking forward to it. We'll have a recipe a week, correct? Yeah, 1 recipe a week. So look out for that. That's coming. And then the second thing is April 7th will be our next class. I still haven't figured out what I'm gonna do. Sorry? Oh, I'm doing a Foodland 5. Okay, I'll do a Foodland 5 recipe on April 7th, a couple weeks after the Foodland 5 launches on March 31st. So we'll see you then. It'll be 5 ingredients. The class will be like 10 minutes, but we'll still have fun. I'll think of some other fun things to do, and we'll see you then. So until next time, have fun, everyone.